All right, let's have this conversation now with Melanie Veness, who is the Pietermaritzburg and Midlands Chairman Business CEO. Thank you so much for your time. This is devastating, Melanie, and I wonder, how does your organization react?
Yes, so this evening I'm joining you on behalf of not only my organisation, but I chair the Association of South African Chambers, so it's on behalf of all of the larger chambers in the country, many of whom are operating at port cities. And it's devastating for the towns involved, for the business community, and for South Africa as a whole, to lose 3,500 jobs like this at a time in our country's existence when our unemployment levels are at astronomically high levels, and we don't have the growth that could possibly absorb, those jobs. So it's devastating.
And especially when you think even about the fact that this is going to have a ripple effect for some of the communities, where these businesses continue to operate, because some of the people are employed there, and the local economy was also, benefiting from that particular aspect thereof, but also at the same time, the families that will then have to have one less breadwinner, for example.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, each person, it's estimated, supports 10 other family members. And if you look at all of their suppliers to those organizations, their companies, this being such a big company, will probably find that they're very hard hit. So it's going to start a ripple effect throughout the economy. It's very scary. I don't know how we can't say we're surprised that something like this would happen, given the operating environment in which business is forced to operate in currently. Having electricity prices at the level they've escalated to, and load shedding and our logistical crisis in the country, it's very difficult operating environment for business to try and function in.
And I'd like us to stay with that, because this unfavourable environment that now exists for businesses to try and be able to stay afloat and continue to then, employ people is really more and more apparent. And these are businesses, for example, like ArcelorMittal is saying, there's rolling blackouts, the impact thereof, the transport infrastructure challenges, poor economic growth, among others. And at the same time, these are still businesses that are trying to get out of the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic on some of their operations. Let's talk about all of this when it comes to these unfavourable conditions and the impact that they have.
Absolutely. I mean, one must also really think about us operating on the global stage. We have to carry so many additional costs that our competitors in other countries don't have to carry. The costs of a failing logistics system are enormous. The load shedding, the high electricity tariffs, the inconsistent services that you get at a local level. So it's not only load shedding and high electricity costs, it's infrastructure failure at a local municipal level that adds additional burden to what South African companies have to face. So it really is impossible in many cases for us to compete globally. We're not just competing with each other. And the other thing that's worth mentioning is that that load shedding is not affecting everybody equally. There are larger cities, some of whom are able to protect their large industry from the ravages of load shedding by managing their load. And their competitors in other cities where that is not possible are facing the full brunt of load shedding. So we're creating this very difficult, uncompetitive environment for companies to operate even within the boundaries of South Africa.
And I wonder if there does look like there is anything being done drastically now to make sure that that does not continue to happen in terms of creating this uneven playing field.
Yeah, it's something that we've raised on a consistent basis, and it doesn't seem to be being dealt with. We've got, for instance, packaging companies in our city whose competitors in the bigger centres don't face any load shedding. Now, it's impossible when you run a continuous process to have stage 6 load shedding and continuous interruption in your process, which creates wastage, and it's just not possible to compete. So those companies in those towns face an almost impossible task to stay in business. So it is something government has got to do something about. In fact, I'm considering at this point in time actually writing to the Competition Commission to say this is completely unacceptable that that this unfair competitive space is being created by load shedding.
And I mean, you think about what, ArcelorMittal is talking about here, of course, talking about the fact that there's been, a decreased demand in steel, but also looking at some of the challenges that they've had to face over time. But they're not the only business that has seen these kinds of challenges. And I wonder, where does government begin from your vantage point as business to ensure that they do make sure that things are better somewhat? Because it does look like every time you speak to the business community, there's a sense of despondency. There's also a sense that things aren't moving as fast as they should be in order to cushion business from some of the blows that the country has been taking.
No, absolutely. And the private sector has been saying for some time, we have the skills. It's in our interest to partner with government to solve some of these challenges. We just have to find a way to let the private sector and government work together to fix this stuff. It's going to take both of us. It's in both our interests. We are seeing some movement as far as Transnet Ports is concerned. There have been some good engagements, and I understand that in the very near future, we may see some of those partnerships coming into effect. And I hope the same can be said about what's happening in the electricity field. We have the expertise. Please, South Africa needs us to work together to put some solutions on the table. What we've done so far is not working. And we've run out of the luxury of time.
I wonder, though, if you agree that some of these partnerships, though, come at a time when things are already at crisis level, particularly looking at the fact that what happened at the ports, we then had to get private players in because we're finding ourselves in a crisis position. Why can't things just be done when, there is no crisis, and we try to make sure that we never find ourselves in one?
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know how we allowed things to get this bad. It's actually, it really is a huge disservice to South Africa to have allowed things to have gotten to this stage. But here it is. This is where we find ourselves, and now we have to find a solution and a way out of it. And it's critical that we do that.
And I wonder, as a chamber, how concerned are you that many more companies may follow suit, particularly when we think about the fact that the rolling blackouts, as we speak, we are straddling between stage 5 and stage 6, even currently?
No, I mean, there are a lot of companies that are teetering. This is the start. It's certainly not... it's not an isolated case by any stretch of the imagination. And the electricity crisis, as well as the logistics crisis, is putting not only current business at risk, but future business. When ships are bypassing our ports and we aren't able to get components in, and it's stopping our manufacturing lines, and we have to fly stuff out at great cost, we're not competitive. And then the international companies that are considering allowing us to produce new lines in South Africa will think twice about that. So it's affecting our potential as well as what's currently happening in South Africa. So we stand to lose now and in the future if we don't fix this stuff.
Urgent, decisive action is certainly needed. Let me thank you so much for your time. We do appreciate it, Melanie. That is Melanie Veness, Pietermaritzburg and Midlands Chamber and Business CEO.